Welcome to LBRY has lost and Gran Turismo 7 is lost. I've waited to a video about LBRY losing the lawsuit to the SEC for a bit because I wanted to see what the fallout in future and all that was. From what it seems like, that in general, as of now, isn't absolutely terrible. Because, LBRY just announced they have a new version of their desktop app, and so therefore their platform themselves still going on. Odyssey's worked the same as it has been. I'm still somewhat tentative on just Odyssey in general. It seems like there's more censorship on Odyssey than LBRY, and I joined LBRY because of the less censorship. But I think also it's kind of obvious at this point that the reason why Odyssey was so advertised and worked on and all that is because they kind of knew that the government was corrupt beforehand, and they figured that this was going to be a loss, even though it shouldn't have been. So that's why they put so much focus on Odyssey, because it's different from LBRY, and I guess in hindsight, I understand. You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess, even if it's not the ideal thing. So whatever. Not getting too much into Odyssey here. That's my thoughts on Odyssey in general. But on the LBRY side, again, they tweeted that they're still advancing, and they also tweeted that they're trying to figure out the settlement from the lawsuit. And really, about the only thing they said specifically about the lawsuit settlement itself is that part of the stipulations is that LBRY themselves doesn't talk about the details of, like, the SEC, like what all they did and stuff. The Securities Exchanges Commission has been in the news for a bit now with the whole FTX thing, and even sort of more my neck of the woods with motorsports games going out of business, the ones that made NASCAR 21 Ignition and stuff, so that's gonna be a thing. Maybe all that's slightly tied together, and just that the SEC is really busy right now, so they kind of had to be brief, generic, and not saying all that much. But I have a hunch that's just what they prefer to be. They don't want to give much details, so just give a brief and general explanation. And they don't want to spend much time on it because they don't care. They don't care about LBRY. They don't care about motorsports games. They don't care about FTX. They just care about themselves. All of this lawsuit was just affecting the SEC. This didn't actually affect the people that the initial quote-unquote securities that LBRY had were given to. Like, LBRY had the LBC at the beginning that apparently was promoted as a security. I wasn't around back then. I don't have any proof one way or the other. I joined in 2019. That apparently happened in 2015 and 16, so there's that. But anyway, I can't prove anything one way or the other. I can say this. This lawsuit didn't give people that the quote-unquote securities were sold to back money. It just gave the SEC more money, from what I can tell. And then apparently there's a whole money laundering thing going on with the FTX out of it that I'm not too knowledgeable on, because I didn't know I needed to be until all that happened, and then it became major news out of nowhere. I don't know. There's plenty of cryptocurrency people on this site. If you want to look at the FTX stuff, I do know slightly more about the motorsports game stuff, because even though I didn't play NASCAR 20, when Ignition, I followed its whole thing because someone wanted to play it. It had pretty graphics, at least, which is better than a NASCAR game has had since the PS2 era. So, yeah, and then they went out of business, and apparently they owe a lot of money and all that. So, I have a hunch. Again, I'm not super knowledgeable on it, but I have a hunch that the SEC is going to hurry up with LBRY. They don't want to spend too much time on negotiating the settlement. They're just going to give a harsh punishment that's undeserved and move on. That's my prediction for that. Again, it's purely just a prediction, but I have a hunch that's what's going to happen. Because at this point, let's face it, I don't think this is news to too many people, but there's parts of the government that are a bit corrupt, to say the least. And it's not exactly new information, and that's part of it as well. This is a whole snowball effect. It's stuff for the general country in a lot of ways. You can take that as you may. And then also specifically for me. I'll be honest, folks, this is part of the reason why I'm putting this video on YouTube and on LBRY and Odyssey. Because of all the lawsuit stuff, we still don't know the settlement. I mean, as of this moment, yeah, I'll continue videos on LBRY and Odyssey, fine, whatever, because as of this moment, it doesn't seem like the lawsuit was a big deal. So I thought of as of this moment. I'm putting this video on YouTube as well, because even though it's not that big of a deal, in terms of things getting worse, pretty much guarantees it's going to take a while, if ever. It might not ever happen. That things are going to get better to the point where it's actually going to become profitable. Again, I've said before that relative to the amount that the LBC is worth then to how much I got then, there was about a month span between early December 2020 and early January 2021 where I made a little over $1,000 if I were to cash out. That was before GT7 came out, so therefore I figured that I could make more from that, and just in general, my channel wasn't as big back then. I didn't have as many followers back then and all that. Now, I'll be honest, folks, I'm not even, I'm basically making nothing. It's somewhere in the cents per month now that I'm making. Not even dollars, it's somewhere in the cents. With the value of the LBC itself fluctuating a bit, it's hard to say the exact amount, but it's basically nothing. With that, I'm sure y'all can piece it together. I've been having plenty of issues before, and that's why I discussed. That's why I couldn't really buy the fancy setups to do the videos better. That's why I could never really get a wheel and all that. I mean, now there's even just doing this in general. I don't know, folks. I don't know. I've said it before. It's not the easiest thing in the world to be able to work with cerebral palsy. I've had experiences for that in the past, even just with internships. I said this in the life story. Trying to get an internship for college that was required. Signed up for over 30, a 5-month period. Heard back from 2, the bulk of which were unpaid. People don't want to hire someone with cerebral palsy that's a slow typer and not the best energy-wise. Trying to go an 8-hour day with keeping up with everyone else, I learned from college, just that doesn't really go well. I can do the task, I can do it, it's not incredibly or anything. I wasn't by far the best of my major or anything. I did good, nothing incredible. But it took me longer than everyone else to finish the stuff in college, and for a workplace, they don't want to hire the slowest one there. There's a whole Disabilities Act of 1990 to where they can't base a hiring purely on cerebral palsy. Like, they can't say, because I am legally blind, that I can't be hired. But they can say that because I can't meet the typing requirement or the work per hour requirement or whatever, then they're not hiring me. And that's just how it is. That's what I have to deal with in life. That's my individual circumstances. So it's a snowball effect because, remember how I mentioned the government being corrupt earlier? But right now, at this very moment, I probably hate the government more than I have in my entire life. But now I'm going to have to rely on the government, probably, to survive. Not said it straightforward, but I've been trying to get supplemental security, which means also working, for quite a few months now, at least every 7 or 8 months with various things. At first I tried for the Biden stimulus stuff, and then I went to that and on from, or Biden stimulus way back when. But then the Biden college debt relief and now for supplemental security. But anyway, point being is that apparently the government has my date of birth wrong in their system. It's right on my state ID, and it's been right for a quarter century, somewhere around there, and somehow the government has it wrong. I don't know how that happened. Nothing else is wrong. It's not like anybody stole my social security number or anything. All the rest is fine. But because apparently they don't have the date of birth right, and I have no idea what it is. I don't even think it was a hack. I think it was just purely someone on the government messing up. It's created to the point of I couldn't get supplemental security for the past months and months, so that's thousands of dollars. I didn't get it. And it somehow even affected my mom's taxes from back when I was still in college. So it's doubly hurting there. And that's supplemental security. I'm trying to get all that figured out. I'm trying to make them hurry up with fixing that. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm purely just waiting on them at this point. I'm waiting on the government to fix something, and that's only the first step. Then I have to still qualify for supplemental security. And that in general is a vague thing of just, is my disability worse enough to qualify? I would definitely say it is. I mean, for one, I'm legally blind. I think that's one straightforward. Even with glasses, it's not like I can live a normal life. Or like, I'll be honest. I mean, I have a car channel and all that, but I don't have a license in real life. That doesn't mean I haven't driven a car on private property and done some stuff. But I can't drive on a regular road. I can't do just a lot of basic things. I mean, I'll be honest, don't take this anyway, really. It's just kind of a statement. It's even just moving around. Like, I can walk, but not all that good. It just doesn't even feel all that good to move around, really. It takes energy and all that, too, just, like, put together videos and all that. I mean, even playing Gran Turismo, I put in 8-hour days, playing Gran Turismo, making the videos, doing, like, research and stuff about how to, like, watching the tutorials and stuff and trying to figure out the tunes and stuff from them, figure out the racing lines and stuff. I would say I put in at least 8-hour days, that's for sure. But even just doing that and playing a video game is pretty tiring. I'd say I sleep at least, on average, 10 hours a day, and that's at least. Like, I'm still pretty perpetually tired and all that, so not trying to complain, not trying to make it woe is me. It's just a statement of fact. That's what I'm dealing with. And this is playing a video game. This is about as easy as my life would get, theoretically, unless it just gets a downright miracle, win the lottery or something that will never happen. So, yeah, I mean, even this is probably harder than the average person has it going to a 9-to-5 job. So, between not getting paid much doing this and it still being harder than the average, that's not the best thing in the world. And again, that's for supplemental security. That's working in general. I'm trying to deal with the government myself, and I had the company that I was actually doing good on, having to deal with the government and I already lost. Right now, I'm definitely not winning, but supplemental security. I could theoretically try for disability. I think still they would have to fix the thing going up with my date of birth either way. But then there's disability. The thing with disability, from how I understand it, that means that you straight up can't work at all. That means it's basically admittance of defeat. That means that there's no chance of me making any type of money, any type of contribution. I really don't want to give up completely. I mean, if worst comes to worst and it's about to starve and that's all I can get, then I guess that's all I can get. But it seems to be like a very last resort. Supplemental security, theoretically, I should pretty easily be able to get, and then that also means I can still work, whether it's this or try for this job that would be the slowest one there. I'd rather do this, that I have 20 plus years of experience in and already a lot of framework in. Rather do this. That's for sure, folks. As bad as Gran Turismo gets, at least I know that I'm pretty good at Gran Turismo in general. I'd rather work at a job that I'm good at than a job that I'm not going to enjoy, more likely than not, because I'm the slowest one there at. No matter how much the individual task that I'm doing I may or may not enjoy, if I'm the slowest one finishing the task, that in general, that part of it I'm not going to enjoy to the point of it's going to make the overall experience bad and probably not even be able to be hired in the first place. But yeah, I'm into Gran Turismo. Yeah, now let's transition into that. First part is LBRY in general. Second part is me in general. Now is Gran Turismo in general. GT7 is somehow getting worse. I don't know how that's possible, but it's still somehow getting worse. I sold the clip that Gran Turismo 7 is not esports ready. I mean, there's way more than a clip to sell that. It's definitely not. But in that clip, I was going about my business perfectly fine. I braked even slightly late for a turn because I realized if I got right on the apex and braked fairly early to hit the apex perfectly, then I might get tapped. But I didn't get tapped. I got downright rammed by an obvious dive bomber. One, the dive bomber wasn't ghosted like it was in the past. I don't know what happened there. Two, there's damage now, so the dive bomber gave damage to my car. Three, again, because it's not ghosted, that made my car also hit the wall as well, so that's more speed loss plus more damage. And four, I got the penalty. So I lost time by getting hit out of like the racing line, hitting the wall, having damage to my car, and getting the penalty when I did absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever. If anything, I gave slightly more room. I braked slightly later to avoid just a general tap, but that was someone basically kamikazing to hit my car, and we're in the race. That clip is already up, and y'all can watch it easily. It's on YouTube, it's on LBRY and Odyssey. I've linked it to sites and stuff. I'm advertising that one, to say the least. Gran Turismo 7's not esports ready. Just that clip in general shows it's obvious, but then y'all may be thinking, oh, that's just weekly race A. That race doesn't count for DR and SR. That race is basically just meant for pure fun. Well, in weekly race B, it went from a race where people could cheat by parking near a pit exit and be teleported to the start-finish line and gain like 20 seconds or something. They didn't actually fix it. People are saying they fixed this. No, folks, they didn't fix it. Maybe they will later, but they haven't yet. They just switched the race out to something completely different with basically no... They didn't say beforehand they were going to do that. And race B counts for DR and SR. So, yeah, that's messed up right there, isn't it, folks? Remember how I did the video in the past of over 10 years of exploits in Gran Turismo? When probably the biggest one I sold was drifting with the front-wheel drive cars, where you could just use the e-brake and go like 36 miles an hour or whatever, and that got the most scores of anything in those games. From what I can tell, they didn't actually even fix that. They just replaced it. In a lot of ways, they just got rid of it completely. There's barely really drifting at all involved with progressing in Gran Turismo anymore. So they all but got rid of it. They replaced it with single car drifting for the little bit that's in there, so you can't use a front wheel drive on 36 miles an hour. They didn't fix it, they just replaced it. That's what they did with race speed. They haven't fixed anything yet. I'm not saying they will or they won't. They just haven't done anything yet. They have not fixed it. They replaced it. There's a big difference there. There's a big difference there. Yeah, that means they basically, until they actually fix it, can't use Lago Maggiore, whatever, lake. I say lake, but they say, but you know what I'm talking about. Until that's fixed. They can't use that entire track in anything competitive. I guess, well, maybe they can use like the first half or that sections, but not 100% sure. But they can't use the entire track. They can't use the full version. Or they can't use the sector like in the original weekly race B that was causing it. So anyway, yeah, they can't use that entire track, meaning what I said. And that's a major issue, to say the least. When there's a track out of the game in general, it's terrible. And then y'all may be thinking, oh, not too many of the best really do the weekly races anymore. Well, there's not a championship going on, so they have to either do something or they're not playing at all. If they're not playing at all, then that's the best of the best game has to offer, not playing at all. Because when they did play, it was tape delayed. They didn't do it live. They did it well after the fact. And well after the fact, for the manufacturers, everyone saw it coming. Toyota won again because there's the contract there. And I'm not saying it's rigged for Toyota to win every single time or whatever, but it's definitely rigged to help the odds. There's partners with the game. There's Toyota, there's Mazda, Porsche is a cover car, so there's that Porsche esports thing going on. Even, there was something a while ago, I can't even remember exact details, but Michelin and Aston Martin had something or another a while ago. And then one time out of the blue, Aston Martin won the Manufacturers' Cup during when the Michelin and the Aston Martin thing was going on with Michelin. It's a newly announced sponsor. It works almost like clockwork to where one of the affiliates with the game, Toyota, Mazda, Porsche, Aston Martin that one time, whatever, wins the manufacturers. It's pretty straightforward. I don't really think you can have absolute proof to deny it. Of course, you can deny it just in general of best case scenario, benefit of the doubt, and all that. When it's happening time and again since GT Sport, going on 5 years now, it's pretty picking obvious that's what's going on. That is the main competition. And nobody really watches that main competition. In the Nations Cup, that didn't deserve to get such low people watching, that was a really good race. There's battles throughout the field. At one point, there's a 4-car battle for the lead. And there's really no true way that I know of, at least, to rig the Nations Cup, I hope. And that was a good battle. It deserved more viewers, but because they've ruined the other aspects of the game, the less people watched. There's more factors in it than the game in general isn't all that good, but that's still a major factor when the game itself is not good. People aren't going to watch the best of the best play that game, no matter how good the best of the best are at the game. If the game itself is bad, then less people are going to watch. I'll say it straightforward. More people should have deserved whatever to watch the Nations race. That was a great race. You know, I'd be nice. I'll link it in the description. There's various languages. But I would assume if you're watching this video at this point, you speak English, at least to an extent, so I'll link the English one. And that's a good race. It's on tape delay on the internet for, I don't know why, but yeah, that's a thing. And like even that's the biggest of the biggest events there, and even that, the manufacturer's bit of it is rigged in the Nations because everything else is broken, no one cares. We're to the point now where less and less people care about Gran Turismo every day. Like the new God of War coming out, with it being Sony exclusive and all that, even less eyes on Gran Turismo. We're to the point now to where less people are caring day by day, and somehow it seems like the game is even getting worse day by day. Even this week alone, there's a game-breaking glitch in Race A to where people can literally be dirty and penalize the other person for it. There was such a game-breaking thing in Race B, they got rid of it completely and just replaced it without even truly fixing it yet. Hopefully they fix it. And that's just this week. And then technically this week was when the events came out, but again, those were tape delayed. I'm not even sure when they happened for real. Yeah, folks, Gran Turismo 7 it's been terrible since it came out. I think in a lot of ways it's actually worse. Even just the money grinding. Even at the Tokyo Expressway, I did a video with this. The Tokyo Expressway East Clockwise World Tour 600 event. Now they have wall riding all of a sudden. Whatever, I'm indifferent to that. I mean, wall riding helps get more credits. Yay, it's unrealistic in the real driving simulator, but it helps get more credits. But the real unrealistic part there is they upped the tire wear out of nowhere for no real reason whatsoever. And now there's a different glitched car that can do it. How about this? We shouldn't have to worry about just that event. Have that event have the same money. and then have other events have equal money, or if not, make all the events combined more money. At the very least, have various events that we can grind. There's the Sardegna 800 PP one, but that's slightly less money and not as glitchy, so less people do that one. But that's really about it. There's a Max 2, and even that second one's slightly worse. So really one. And Kaz himself said that there's going to be multiple events in which you could grind for money. He didn't say how much money, it's still not enough money. Even with that event being glitchy, Gran Turismo 7 is still statistically, there's plenty of proof out there, statistically the grindiest Gran Turismo of all time. It's just a statistical fact. There it is. And that's why we still have online. I'm not even going to get into when the online is cut. That not even getting in that. So, yeah. There's not much aspects of Gran Turismo 7 that are working better than before. There's really not. There's less people playing right now because there's no nations and manufacturers going. I guess that'll start back soon to where they just had those finishes and stuff. So there's just people in general playing the game. Those that are playing the game are having to do Race A being the dirty drivers win, Race B being replaced. So everybody just goes to doing one race over and over, being Race C, and one race over and over for an entire week. It's boring. Make the daily races daily again. They still try and advertise them as daily races, even though they're not. In my opinion, like I've said before, somebody with a lot of money, in my opinion, should have sued Gran Turismo. They could have thrown in there as well with the selling of things, even, I guess, theoretically, the boring cars where you get those engine swaps and stuff that make it seem like that maybe they can be sold, or various parts you get in roulette, or whatever it may be. We still don't have that. They could throw in there, too, that they are calling the weekly races daily races, even though they've not once been daily in 7. It's false advertising, and blatantly so. Make the daily races daily again, folks. That's for sure. Especially Race A, because Race A isn't anything. The qualifying times, like, some people like the weekly because they have time to qualify throughout the week and stuff. But for Race A, it doesn't matter where you qualify, you're at D or an S over does it. At the very least, make Race A daily again. At the very least. So you should make all 3 daily, in my opinion, and then people have their opinions. I think the vast majority can agree. At least make, quote unquote, daily, Race A daily. That would help for a lot of things, especially when the championships aren't running. But nonetheless, it still doesn't make the game good. The game is still glitchy. The penalty system's still flawed. I've given up on the penalty system. I really have. When it gets worse, I'll mention it like I already have, but just of the general, when it's always bad, it's always bad. It's always been bad. It probably always will be bad. The general stuff I've kind of given up on at this point. And everybody knows at this point PD just doesn't care at this point, or they just don't have the ability to fix it. They won't say. There's still the whole communication thing. It's been a thing since even before Gran Turismo was bad. Like, even in its heyday, GT3 through GT5, there still wasn't a direct way to contact Polyphony Digital. Now, when the game is terrible, and people need to contact them, there's still no way to do so. Communication thing is arguably the longest thing that's been going on in all of these bad things. Still haven't fixed that. There's still glitches that have been around for over 10 years. I made a video before. There's still new glitches that come up every week. To end off this video, I mean, y'all can probably connect the dots a bit. LBRY is about to get something in terms of settlement that hurts them. I'm personally am still dealing with a lot of stuff that may or may not get resolved. And Gran Turismo is somehow even still getting worse. You can connect the dots there. For me personally, yeah, that's not looking too good. I don't know what to do. I'll end this video saying this. I don't know what to do at this point. I don't know how long stuff's going to take. Getting Gran Turismo on the Paralympics, I mean, if GT7 is a downright terrible game, I understand if Paralympics don't have anything to do with Gran Turismo. I understand that. That's straightforward. I'm definitely not blaming them there. But even if they do, I have no idea how long it would take to actually happen. That's like the best case scenario of things that may be a possibility there. LBRY, I mean, they still haven't even gotten the brunt of what's going on. Me personally, I have no idea how long the government stuff is going to take. And Gran Turismo, no matter how much positive or negative happens there, I think there's a makes a PD and Sony not caring and not just in general not being able to truly fix stuff. As I've said before, for me in general, it probably doesn't change too much of the videos in the immediate future, but I mean, it's about to be winter. People said doomsday stuff about winter and power and paying bills and stuff. I mean, if it gets to the doomsday stuff like people were saying, then I'm going to have to try something beyond just this. I don't think I really can, but if worst comes to worst, I'm going to have to do something. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to have to do it. And this may or may not cut it. It's looking more like may not every day. I don't know. I'm putting this video on YouTube and all that just kind of as a... If this is the beginning of the end, then I want everyone to see it. I don't like YouTube. I haven't for years now, but it doesn't mean that I don't want people to see that all this is going on. I don't want to hide anything. I don't want to be dishonest. I don't want to be shady. I want to be truthful and helpful and upfront. I don't want to look like I'm hiding anything. I don't want to look like I'm being dishonest. I don't want to look like I'm trying to use people or feel like I'm trying to get something out of people. I'm just saying all this is statements of fact at this point. If stuff needs to be done different in the future, then that's the future. Because right now it's a statement of fact that LBRY doesn't even seem like the worst that's happened to them yet. For me in general, I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm purely relying on the government at this point to help me out. Yeah, I can take that anyway. And for Gran Turismo, I don't really think it's going to get much better. At least not for a while. It hasn't out shown signs it's getting worse. And then the Paralympic side of it, I mean, I haven't heard anything back from the Paralympics, but I also don't blame them. I really can't blame them for that. So again, all this is sort of a nothing burger or whatever you want to call it. This doesn't really change too much for the immediate future, but I mean, even like 2-3 months down the line, if it gets really cold and the power gets expensive, then I may have to abruptly change stuff around. I mean, all in all, as much as all this sounds like first world problems, I live in the first world and I don't have money to move. I live in the United States and I just can't move anywhere else. So these first world problems directly affect me, and when it's to the point to where the first world is even get affected by climate and stuff and just global inflation and all that, when it's even affecting the strongest of countries, it's to the point now to where the weak links in the strong countries are struggling, to say the least, and it's out of my power. I'm just kind of stuck to being physically the weak link. I'm gonna do my best to get Gran Turismo in the Paralympics. I'm gonna do my best to try and make this work, because I feel like this is still what I know best and what I am best at. But my best isn't enough. I'm purely relying on other people. I'm relying on the government to be nice to the LBRY. I'm relying on the government to be not even really just nice, to be not inept with me, basically, to be competent. I'm relying on the government to be competent with me. I'm relying on Gran Turismo to at least, well, again, sort of kind of to be competent. Which is more likely, the government to be competent or Gran Turismo to be competent? I don't even really want to think about that anymore. This video has gone, what is it now, almost 35 minutes? That's enough for now. For the immediate future, I'm planning on doing a decades challenge featuring more decades than before and more even total cars per decade than before, and that should be good. If I have time, I may facilitate it. I'll see how that goes. So That might be fun. I've already spent a lot of credits to do that for GT7, so I'll do it at least in some way. I'm not gonna completely waste all those credits and time on something that I don't get anything out of. So, yeah, for the immediate future, there's that. Yay. And, yeah. For even just a few months from now, I don't know. I hope things work out, but at this point, I'm purely relying on other people for it. I've been fighting really since I was 11 years old, like I said in my life story video. I basically had to become an adult then because my dad was more inept than all the stuff going on combined somehow. So I had to basically become an adult then, and I've been fighting, clawing, grinding, whatever you want to call it, ever since, and now I'm here. Barely having to rely on other things for me to even metaphorically and to an extent literally survive. So, yeah, that's where I am. I'll discuss where LBRY and Gran Turismo is, so I don't exactly think any of that's worth a yeehaw, is it? Kinda don't think so. Again, at least there's kind of the one light in the distance that I'm trying to get to of that to get Gran Turismo to the Paralympics. It's that one far off in the distance thing that it may never end up getting to that it's fighting for, and it's getting farther and farther away, it seems like, but it's still, I can see it very slightly. And I'm legally blind, and I can still see it very slightly, so maybe it's slightly better odds, and I'm giving myself, maybe I'm being too harsh on everything combined, but I don't know yet. It's not. A few months from now. A few months from now, there's almost a guarantee it's going to be worse than it is now, but it's only about a 99% chance, so let's see what happens, folks. But all I know for at this very moment, it's not worth a yeehaw, but at least there's something that has a very extremely small chance of happening to fight for. Yay. Do I have the money, energy, resources to fight for it much longer? It's not quite day yet, but we'll see. We'll see, folks. We'll see.